What would you say to someone like me who's coming to this realization for the first time?
First off, I want to caveat that and say I'm obviously not a finance guy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This is
Yeah, yeah,
not.
that's true. It's good we
This
say
is
that.
not. I'm not going to spend that $30 a month on that anymore.
Yeah.
If you have an expensive gym membership, I would say definitely cancel it.
If you're a dad trying to pay the bills, show up for the kids, and still sleep at night, welcome. This podcast is for you. This is the very first episode of the Money, Mindset, and Fatherhood podcast. This is a podcast for you guys who are trying to navigate the modern life, dealing with money, finding meaning, and doing all this without burnout. Today, we have a guest, and this guest, of course, for me to start, I had to go to my warm network. This is my very good friend. We've known this guy for close to 15 years right now. We've been friends. He is not a guru. He is not yet a multi-millionaire. I don't know about the millionaire status yet, so we wouldn't go there yet. He's not yet a multi-millionaire. He's just a real guy like me. He's juggling a demanding job. He's growing a family, and the weight of the economy, he feels is like every one of us, and it keeps changing faster on us than we can even anticipate, right? He sees himself as a curious, strategic, and quietly bold. And I can tell more about that quietly bold, so we'll leave that for now. He spent over 10 years as a business and strategic planning role in different companies, some of them publicly owned and some of them in government. And he is, most importantly, a father and a husband. He's a father to 3 amazing kids. They are not here today. If not, this would be more lively. But he's here, and his name, my brother, my friend, Mr. Peter Raji.
Thank you for having me,
Thanks,
Celestian.
It's a
Glad
pleasure
to be here.
Thank you, my friend. It's a pleasure having you as my first guest. I think that there are only so few people that I would have as my first guest. And for my first episode on this podcast, people I know I can reach out to and they would answer me without wanting to look for my credentials as a podcast host. So today is going to be fun. We're going to make all our mistakes together. We're going to learn together. We're going to make this into something. And again, I can't express my appreciation enough for
It's
you
an honor.
agreeing to be the first guest here.
It's an honor, man. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. So, we've talked about you as a strategic, curious, and quietly bold. This is the LinkedIn profile bio, right? This is how we sell ourselves. You're a corporate guy. You know how this works, right? Let's go behind LinkedIn, right? What is the part of your life that we don't see on LinkedIn? What would you point out in your life that is not on LinkedIn?
Well, those are the most important part. Those are the parts that I think, they're the non-corporate side of me, which is the more personal and the more obviously very well guarded part of me. Being a father, it's absolute honor of my life. Being an husband, and all of that stuff, all the wins and some of the challenges that comes with that. Those don't make it onto LinkedIn. I don't share a lot on LinkedIn. I don't share a lot on social media, period. But I think those are the core of what sets me apart. So you see the facade, if you may, or you see the mask on LinkedIn. But behind that is the real, the things that I treasure, the things that I hold, so precious to me, the family, my father, my mother, my siblings. Those are the things that are really, really dear to me. They don't make it to LinkedIn.
Yeah. So the beautiful LinkedIn profile with all the credentials and accolades of a successful professional career, those are not really the highlights of what makes your life. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I've always looked at it this way. Success is things that are external, so that other people determine if you are successful or not. Those are external factors that make you successful or not. The things that make you happy are internal. Those are the things that come from the here. Doing the things you love. Spending time with your children, and the agony of being woken up at night by your little one, but then remember again, hey, this is a blessing. And those are the things that make you happy. When you come home and they say, "Daddy," those are the things that make you happy. Those are the things that drive the success. So does that make sense?
A lot of sense. A lot of sense. So family is really what makes you happy.
Yes. And again, the thing that makes you happy are things that are
Internal
it's
to you.
inside job. Like
Yeah.
that's more from here.
Yeah.
Success is more from here, where that's what people see. Those are the the accolades,
Yeah.
the money,
Yeah.
the corporate job,
Yeah.
the certifications, the networks. But the real things that
So that means there's a clear distinction between success and happiness in that regards.
Oh, definitely.
Depending on what you want to, how you
Definitely.
want to look at it.
The way I look at it is
Yeah.
success doesn't necessarily translate to happiness. I mean, I think there's a whole catalog of people who you'd consider successful, but they're not happy. But then you'll see an average guy who, I mean, from where we came from,
Yeah.
regular people are happy. Like if you ask them if they're happy, they'll tell you
They're happy.
100%.
In Nigeria, you leave work at 5 o'clock and there's a traffic on your way home, but you rather stop and go hang out with your boys, have a beer or two before then the traffic clears out and you're going home with the stress kind of gone because you've been hanging out with the boys, right?
And that makes you happy, right?
Yes.
And but then we live in a different culture where you have everything you want, but then you could be unhappy. So success doesn't at all correlate with happiness. I think they're both on a completely parallel line. And so you could have one ahead of the other, or one without the other.
Yeah. So that brings into a very, very solid fact, right? Point rather that we drive us to our next conversation. You said something about success and happiness, right? And a lot of us tend to see money as a source of success and also as a source of joy.
Okay.
Right? That is how a lot of people look at money. So, but what I'm trying to get from what you're saying is that success or money might not necessarily equal joy. Where does money fall in your own scale between success and joy or happiness?
I fundamentally believe money is a tool, and that's all that it is in my mind. It's a tool for you to achieve success or happiness. So you could use it towards whichever of those channels. A lot of people equate money to success, and we all want to be successful.
Yeah.
Because it feels good. It's a beautiful feeling knowing that you are successful and other people respect you. But that's just money, and it's just a tool to get to whatever that end goal is. For some people, it's again vacationing more, and that's what brings them happiness. And so because of that, they channel their money towards that.
Yeah.
Some people, under certain circumstances, would spend their money on, acquiring that new car, that new home, family, spending on friends, giving away. It's a tool that hopefully you can channel towards whichever of those, in my mind, goals that you have. That's how I've always seen money. Just because you have it doesn't mean you're necessarily happy or successful, but you could spend it to achieve whichever of those that you're looking for.
So that's awesome. So first of all, money is a tool and we choose how we want to use the tool.
Yes.
So ideally, we can choose to use our money as a tool to get us some level of happiness.
So there's a lot of research around experiences and spending money on material things versus spending them on experiences.
On experiences, yeah.
And I mean, all the data points to pursuing experiences has always been a better form of longer sustained happiness.
Yeah.
Whereas if you were to buy a pair of shoes or a shirt with that same amount of money, it brings you happiness for far shorter time. And so the way I look at it, like I said, it's you can channel that money towards experiences or anything that brings you joy.
Yeah.
Part of being an experience could be, hey, do I give that money to charity? Does that make me feel good? And if that makes me feel good, then perhaps I've spent that money to buy a little bit of happiness and a little bit of the feeling of being charitable. And you and I have read a couple of books together where that sense, gives you that happiness,
Yes.
and for longer stretch of time.
Yeah, I've been a disciple of Tony Robbins. I've been going through a lot of his seminars. I've been reading a lot of his materials.
He's good.
He's good.
He's good.
Tony Robbins is good. He is amazing. And one of the things he would always say to you is that one of the biggest gifts you can ever give is, like, you can ever have in life, is really what you give back, how much you contribute back to society, right? He talks about the 6 basic human needs, and the last 2 of them, which transcends us, is pretty much contribution, and I think I forgot the 5th one now, but contribution is a big part of what he preaches, right?
Okay, like contributing to society.
Yes, what you give back.
Right.
What you give back to society. And that you talked about that with, you can use your money to buy that if that's what gives us joy, right? And
Yes.
I think it's a big part of success in my own books, right? And
Yeah.
it is a big part of success, being able to say, I see a situation, I can change the situation. It might not necessarily bring me anything back in return, but it gives me the fulfillment of knowing that I'm doing something that really doesn't come back to me, but is helping other
charitable.
people. Getting back to what we are saying now, we've talked about success, we've talked about money, we've talked about contribution and giving back. What is the one thing you feel as men that we should talk about more openly, but we don't?
Where do you want me to start the list?
There's a lot of it, right?
There's a lot of things we men don't talk about openly.
Okay, let's say we talked about money, for example, right? But one of the things I think that we don't talk about enough for us is money, right? Personally, growing up, I had little personal finance knowledge, right? I was one of those guys who were told to go to school, do good academically, get a good job, climb the corporate ladder, make more money, and you'll be fine. That was the personal finance knowledge I got growing up, right? And getting to the point where you realize this formula is no longer working for me, it needs to change. And you are now faced with that daunting task of going to look at your finances and see what shape they are in. It is really, really scary,
of course,
right? Because you've never done that before, and you're going to deal with money. Money is a very sensitive topic for a lot of people to talk about. And I find that a lot of us tend to hold on to that. We don't want to talk about it because either the shame, the fear, right, of not being able to manage your finances, the shame of letting another man know that your finances are actually in shambles and you don't have your things set up straight, right? I don't think we talk about that enough. Do you buy into that ideology, or what else do you think that we don't talk about enough as men?
Okay, so a couple things. So I fundamentally think we don't talk about money enough, but there's a lot of other things that we don't talk about a lot. As men, we don't talk well enough about our mental health. We don't talk well enough about needing help. We don't talk well enough about challenges that we face in the family, and certainly we don't talk about what things fill our cup enough. Do I need more? Just gonna lean into some of the 5 love languages, those things. Do we need more conversations to feel connected, to feel more human? So, but to your point, the second piece, as a human, as a generation, we don't talk a lot about money.
Yeah.
And the reason why we don't talk about money is 2 things. You covered a few of them. The external factors, which is what would people think? I am ashamed. Does that make me sound like a failure? Because we all want to be successful.
Yes.
Does that make me seem like a loser? Does that make me seem like I'm complaining? So those are the external factors, but there are some internal factors as well, which is, you mentioned it too, which is because it's in such a terrible shape, I don't want to look at it, because then I'm having a great day and it's just going to ruin it. And what it does is it puts us into this territory where we start to worry. And we don't want to worry, so we'd rather just ignore it and think it goes away. Well, I mean, we don't wish it.
Think it away. We all wish it away.
No,
whatever.
we should wish it away, right?
Yeah.
We don't think about it.
Yeah.
So we just, I'm just gonna put it there, and then hopefully it goes away, and I
Hopefully it
never
goes
have to
away.
worry about it.
Hopefully I win the lottery and then I can sort everything out and don't have to worry about it.
I mean, the number of times that people make a comment about, I won the lottery, right? and statistically, we all know it's virtually impossible.
Yeah.
But those are the things. So it's a combination of like not wanting other people to feel or know our struggles, because we feel like it diminishes our sense of appreciation and success. But on the other side too is it's just an unpleasant experience. And so a lot of people, the easy way to take, or the easy route is just ignore it, or don't look at it, or don't talk about it. So I think for all of us, there's a little bit of those in there. And like you, I've never formally been passed down any type of personal finance knowledge. Typical immigrant or Nigerian or Yoruba father would teach you how to take care of yourself, how to be a man, based on the values and the core skills of hard work, tenacity, stick with the problem, fix it, be grateful. So all those other tenets are taught, but the money skills and the personal finance skills, they just tell you to save, but save what?
Save what?
And save
For
how much?
long?
For how long?
For what? Like, what am I
And what are you
saving
saving for? And should you have short-term, medium-term savings, short-term savings, and long-term savings? Or should you just save? But what we thought is just save.
Yeah.
And then you go, well, I've been saving, but it's not enough, because you didn't get that background of like, hey, this is how much you should save. This is get those.
You should save on the greener days for the rainy days.
Fair, and for a lot of people.
A lot of people don't even know that.
For a lot of people,
right?
I actually think that you should save all of the time.
All of the time.
It's easier said than done, and I would even personally, that's easier said than done.
Yeah.
But that's where you want to get to, right?
Yeah.
You want to get to a point where you're investing.
Yeah.
But you're saving for long term.
Yeah.
But you're saving for medium term, and you're also saving for short term. So your short term is something that you could look at and go, oh, this stock market crashed today. Then you can
good.
No, but you can put that into buying more stocks.
Yes.
So that's your short term
to do that. Yes.
Right. That's your short term savings. So you're supposed to be more agile with that, and your medium term saving is supposed to be for that vacation that you want to take in 10, 15, 20 years, or you don't have a home right now and you're trying to get a down payment and whatnot, and your long-term savings would be your retirement savings, things that you've bought, or the stocks that you've bought for long-term. I'm not talking about day trading here. So those are the type of portfolio you want to have. Again, much easier said than done.
Much easier
for a lot of us.
Yes, a lot more easier said than done. From personal experience, I say this, but I'm going to bring back the question again to somebody who is just getting to this realization, or maybe you've had this realization, but you've been stuck in that fear of looking at how bad your finances are, or not wanting to see how. For me personally, when I got to the realization that my finances were not very good, the first thing that struck me was, dude, you're dumb.
Okay.
That was the first thing that came to me. Like, how could you not have figured this out? How did you not see this? Why did you think it was okay for you to live your life the way you were doing?
Okay.
Right? These were the first thoughts that came to my head. That first instance of regret. Like, oh shit, I should have done this a lot better.
Okay.
Right? Now, I could have done this a lot better. Now, my question to you is, at the time when I had that realization, I didn't want to really talk about it, obviously, for the same reasons we've talked about so far. And another reason was I didn't know where to start from. And I didn't know where to start from. So assuming that I had just made this realization and I don't know where to start from, and I don't know who to talk to. We've been boys. Assuming I just came to you and I gave you this scenario that I'm just coming to this realization. I don't know. I'm just realizing that my finances are in shambles. I don't know where to begin. What would you say to someone like me who's coming to this realization for the first time?
First off, I want to caveat that and say, I'm obviously not a finance guy.
That's true. It's good we say that.
This is not my area of expertise.
Yep.
But I think that the first thing that I would say would be to first understand that you can't fix anything you don't understand, right? So I think the first thing for you to do is to understand how we got here. How did we get here? What do we want for the future? I'm one of those that I think that you need to get clear on where you want to get to, because you can't just model your way through. I mean, some people do, but for the most part, a lot of us needs to have some kind of a clear vision of where we're going before we kind of are able to get there. So I'll recommend a few things. One, there are a bunch of apps out there that you can download that analyzes your spending and see what your income is, see where you might be able to trim some things, and maybe then that would give you some low-hanging fruit of where you could maybe save a couple of dollars, and so you're not continuing to sink yourself into that. And it depends on where you are with your personal finances, because some folks are, so my broke is different from your broke and different from the next guy's broke.
True that.
Right?
True that.
And so it depends on kind of where you are in life, right? Like, so if you're a 20-year-old and you don't have excess cash and you think you're broke, that's completely different from a 40, 50-year-old who is in $50,000 credit card debt with all of this stuff. So I think a lot of it depends on where you are in life and where your goals are, and that may determine some of the things that I would personally do if I were in that situation. But again, not being a finance guy myself, I would say get a handle on where your money is going. Do you have enough income to sustain whatever lifestyle you're living right now and you want to live? And if that's not the case, then perhaps maybe you need to adjust one way or the other, and maybe buy that extra meal when things are okay. Cook at home a lot if that gets you kind of where you need to be. So those what I would call low hanging fruits, things that you can maybe quickly do and get some wins. It does two things. One, it helps obviously get your finance in order. But when you do that, what it also does is gives you that dopamine hit where you feel like you're doing something that is actually helping you out. And so looking at your personal finances is not quite as daunting. Then it becomes a game. And you can, some of these apps gamify it. Like they give you a chart where you see, the excess money that you're spending, the extra expenses that you're incurring that are not, really important. And maybe even doesn't give you joy, right? And so you can say, I'm not going to spend that $30 a month on that anymore. If you have an expensive gym membership, I would say, definitely cancel it. But get a cheap one. Don't just cancel it and sit at home. Because anything you have without your health is zero, right?
Zero, man.
So those are some of the things that I would do personally. But again, not being a finance guy myself.
Hey, that was the question that needed to be asked, because I think a lot of us are scared of that. We are not finance guys. I'm not a finance guy myself. I'm still struggling through my own finances, and so it's the same here with Peter. But this is something I know we all deal with every day. And if I do dare add anything to that, it's just to concur with what Peter has said. It's pretty much getting clarity. You can't fix anything without clarity. You don't solve a problem you don't understand. We can't do that.
You can't.
Right? And there are a lot of AI, minus your bank app. If you look at your bank app and you still don't understand, you can download your bank statements, feed it into ChatGPT or any other AI tool, and it will help you do a good breakdown of what's on there. Right? So there are a lot of tools we can use. But enough about money. We've talked about it enough. People don't like talking about it. I think we've poked it enough.
No, I think it's one of those that is, even in the corporate world, we consider it taboo. A lot of us feel really bad about negotiating our salary, or looking for a job that pays more, or admitting the fact that one of the reasons why we still have that job is because of the money. So it is a very, very important and intriguing topic to talk about. So I mean, again, we all kind of come to it.
I think that we can, if we stayed on the topic of money, we can spend this whole episode talking about money.
100%.
And there is a lot of things to be discussed there.
100%.
Right? But let us move a little bit away from money, because this is for real men, right? We're talking about our life generally and everything that concerns us as modern men, if you call us that. And the biggest part of our life is the mental load that we have to deal with, both in our careers, in marriage, and in being fathers, right? There's a lot of mental load that comes with that. My question is, what helps you stay connected to your partner and your kids? Dealing with the corporate world, dealing with everything we have to deal with. When it's time for us to spend time with our family, we need to be present, if I use that word. So, what helps you with that switch? What helps you from being worried and tired and probably sometimes overwhelmed with life and everything else? What helps you stay connected when you spend time with your wife and kids?
I think for me, one of the things that brings me the most joy is the family, and so to me it's easy. It really is. I enjoy just reveling the time that I get to spend with them. I think because I understand how very quick they grow, and they don't. I know you know, and they go from that helpless, little being to, wanting to move around themselves, and you blink and that moment is gone.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they look to you as their superhero, and that moment's gonna go as well.
Yeah.
And so I try to grasp very, very every little bit of it and try to squeeze all of what I can get out of it. But in general, it's fun. They just they have fun. They don't have the burden of the reality of life that we do, and so they can just enjoy the moment and be happy and genuinely be happy. And so if you have a moment to just be able to switch off your worries and be in that moment and enjoy it with them, you find, I find, there's a lot of joy that I find in that. Now, for folks who don't have any children and who, maybe that's not a path in life that they want to take, certainly I'm sure there are things in their life as well that bring them that similar level of joy. Being in traveling, being in spending time with friends and family members, and, it's summer in Ontario, spend time at the beach and what have you. But for me, the one that brings me the most joy is,
spending time with the family.
Yeah.
So you've looked at it as the outcome you get from it than the actual experience, and bring that into the experience itself. What I'm trying to say is, you're coming back from work, you've had a very stressful day, you're not in the mood to be with yourself because everything has happened, right? And then you walk in through the door and you're having that mental switch. You're saying to yourself, listen, this is the moment I'm going to, and this moment I am going to share this moment because I'm not going to have it for a long time. And these are my tribe. This is my tribe. This is my own people here, right? These guys look up to me. I'm everything to them at this moment. So I have to be present for them. Is that what makes you make that mental switch from being overwhelmed, tired, exhausted, and dumping the craze of the day out the door when you're walking through and trying to live that life with them, or live that present time with them?
So yes, but a longer version of that is I would in this moment acknowledge my own privilege of having a career now that gives me a very, very good work-life balance. Exceptional. So yeah, making that switch is a little bit easy. Excuse me. I'm also a commuter, so I have a little bit of a trip between work and home. So that moment is a good time to listen to that podcast, listen to that
listen to that podcast, the Money Mindset and Fatherhood podcast.
Right, that's a key to do a one live.
Yes, you have to listen to the podcast during your drives, my friend.
Right.
In case if you're looking for time for this podcast, that's the perfect time for it.
It is, but it's a very, very good segue to spending time on those things. I think that allows you to disconnect and forget about the hectic day, and just be more present. Again, easier said than done.
Yeah.
But that's what I try to do. That's the hobby.
So what really helps you, other than just looking at the family and the time you get to enjoy with them, what helps you generally stay grounded when you feel overwhelmed?
Bro, I hit the gym.
You hit the gym?
I hit the gym. I think for a lot of men, certainly not all, but a lot of our problems, I find the gym is a good place to sort it out. It's a place for you to see other people doing the same thing you're doing. Make connections with other people who are struggling with the same connections that you are struggling with. and you see people's progress,
Yeah.
and you see your own progress, and you sweat, and you see what you're sweating for, it challenges you against your own self. It challenges you to be better than who you are yesterday, because you had that extra 2.5 pounds.
Yeah.
But that activates that dopamine in your brain and say,
I'm doing this.
I did it. You know, you lift that one more rep and you're going, yes, that's all it's all about. And you see other people cheering you on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, you get off that bench and they go, that was incredible. And you go, oh, I didn't even think that was good. But that was good. So yeah, I think for me that is one thing that I feel like I've really sunk my teeth into.
Yeah.
And helped me to be able to deal with that stress.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing for you mentally, physically, and emotionally too.
Yeah.
Because you deal with it. You have that injury and you go, oh man, that was silly. Never gonna do that again. So it gives you that place to experiment. All of these things, all of these skills that I feel that you need as a modern man, you build those skills, those characters at the gym.
Yeah. For me personally, I take, it's still kind of gym, but I do my own gym at home. I kind of resort to the more calmer mind type of calm mind kind of approach, right? I navigate more towards yoga and meditations.
Yoga is great.
It's great. I never thought I would say this out loud that I do yoga, but yes, I do yoga. I do yoga and I try to meditate when I can. And I think that this actually also helps. It's obviously physical exercise is above all, right? Because you're in yourself, you're with yourself, you're present when you work out, right? You can't be absent-minded doing that.
Yeah.
So
do you do guided
guided meditations?
Meditations or
yeah, I do guided meditations.
I do love that too.
Yeah. That's a different topic on its own.
I know that's a
whole different.
That's another episode of the podcast.
Complete
right?
episode on its own. Yes, I don't want to go into mindfulness and this is a bit of mindfulness too, right? And getting into, I've gone so far as to start looking into energy walks and understanding how energy flows in the body and how you can control that and being present in yourself, and it's a whole different conversation.
That's amazing.
So
I started a conversation with one of my really good friends about that. She practices that very, 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 very well for multiple years. And she was educating me on some of that, so that's something that we can catch up on.
That's good. I like to hear more. I like to talk about that. It's amazing. I like to talk about it. So let's not go all gloomy. Let's talk about wins.
Okay.
Let's talk about positive stuff. What is something that you're proud of that you think most people overlook?
Oh my gosh, there's so much of that. I always compare my own self to who I was yesterday, and the day before that, and the day before that, and the day before that. And I'm one of the most blessed people I know, and that's hands down. So there's so much that I personally am grateful for. Now we all have those days where we don't feel the most grateful, but really I think there's so much that we take for granted. You know, being in your 40s and being healthy and being able to move and being able to, you know, do the things that you want to do. That's huge blessing on its own. I mean, you can't take that for granted. So there's so much personally that I'm just grateful for. Grateful for my family, the kids, the health that they're in. Because that also, you know, challenges real life problems that people deal with. Of course. And I'm one of those that I've spent a lot of time talking to other people about, you know, fortune. So I do a lot of work at work, but also outside of work around diversity and equity. And so understanding some of the privileges that we have is a very good step in that. So I'm well aware of those privileges, I think, personally, and I'm grateful for all of them.
Yeah. So you're saying then that it is really the little things that we do sometimes that we no longer consider anything.
Yeah. So it's easy for us to, it's fleeting me now, but I'll come back. there is this, one of the beauty of our brain is getting used to, there is a phenomenon, I'm a psychology student, I'm just slow today.
Bro, see, you got me into psychology. I think you got me into psychology. I think you got me into psychology. And listen. We've read a lot of books. Well, let's not go there. Let's stay where we are. Let's not debate.
So one of the things that our brain does very well is take a situation that is brand new to us and it was phenomenal. And we thought, oh my gosh, this is the best experience I've ever had. And then at some point and over time, your mind starts to diminish that situation and go, it's just normal.
Yeah.
And then at some point, you even completely, you're numb to it.
Yeah.
Not only is it like just a table stakes, you're numb to it.
Yeah.
You know,
you no longer appreciate it.
Yeah. I remember when you and I first met 15, 20 years ago, we were talking about our careers and we would like to see ourselves in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
And I think you and I had some targets back then that they were.
Oh, if we cross this line.
They were. Yeah. They were the finish line, right?
Yeah.
And I think looking back now, that was finish line forever ago. And
And then you get to that line, you're like, oh shit, I'm just getting started.
Right. And then you go, well, I guess that's it.
That's it.
That's
what I was pursuing.
So I think a lot of our mind does that, and then so we need constant reminding of how far we've come, and especially a lot of us being immigrants, right? There's a lot of that we look at it and we go, oh, it's just normal now, but there are things to be thankful for. Indeed, we're blessed. Really.
That's good. My next question to you is: so in terms of a lot of us, when we get married, we don't have any experience being a father or being a husband. And you could go into, we don't have the experience of also a little bit into finances now, managing our finances. For ourselves, maybe we can, but expanding our scope to involve our family and maybe our parents and other people around us. What is the small habit for you that made a big difference in your family, or maybe your finances, if you want to talk about that, but in your family, in your life generally? What is the one small habit you feel you added or maybe took off that made a huge difference for you?
So the ones that I added, she by far is the finance person in our home. And so I've begrudgingly had to pick up a few things. Now the things that I let go of, some of it are, how do I express this in a way where some of your audience are not going to get their pants up in a bunch, but
dude, this is a real podcast.
I know. So typically, an average Nigerian is very flamboyant.
Yes.
Right. And we all have a little bit of that still left in us, right?
I think it's core, and I don't want to kill it completely, but I know where
you're
going.
It is core.
No way you're going.
So part of that is being realistic with that, and I really mean the quietly bold personality that I've kind of seemed to have embodied is like, no, I'm grounded in who I am, and I don't need those external factors. But when there's a time to be bold, there's time to be bold. It's not being shy, it's just being quiet.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us Nigerians, again, our roots is be flamboyant, flex on them.
Magic, man.
Exactly, flex on them. So some of that is like maybe tuning that down a little bit. And not completely, obviously. I mean, we still got it, but turning that down, and so those are some of the things that I think I would say that I've let go of.
Yeah. That has made huge differences for you.
Yeah, because then you don't spend that extra money on things that is just external validation. Right.
So I used to add into that.
I didn't want to say it like that, but yeah.
I mean, it's what it is.
That is what it is.
Of course. So I used to think about that. I used to think that having a big house or having nice cars and fancy clothes, that is what makes you wealthy. But who cares about that stuff? After I started studying finance and paying more attention to that, I started appreciating people who drive more common cars.
Well, people
less expensive cars.
Right. Some people live, well below their means, right?
Yeah.
Now, it's personally, I think it's a balance, right? And it's one of those where you overdo it, then you might also both ways.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the medium is kind of the happy place.
Yeah.
So if you for example, in real estate, or you're an executive, or you're trying to grow your business, depending on the type of business, you might want to show certain, opulence.
If it makes you money, of course.
Yeah,
right.
But you might want to show some opulence in so that people learn to work with you, or
because it's going to make you more money,
or trust you.
That's an investment, right? As opposed to I am $50,000 in debt, and I have a mortgage, and I'm barely trying to get through. But I like the new BMW that just came out. I have to have it.
Right. That would be a little bit irresponsible.
You know what I'm saying?
But
yeah, to each. I think that's the back to what we said about small habits that made the changes for us. Is just beginning to understand that we there is nobody for us to actually please except ourselves.
I agree. Now, depending on the person,
nobody for us to please.
I think some people will feel like they needed, those extra likes and what have you on the internet, but that's okay.
If that's what you want to go for, to each their own, right?
Because if that's your business, then that's your business, right?
Yeah.
I think that at the end of the day, everyone kind of has different places that they're in their life, different goals, different aspirations, different personalities, different, upbringing, and that ultimately kind of shapes who they are. But I do think understanding where you are financially and being realistic and raw with yourself about what is really attainable.
Being sincere to yourself.
Yeah. So those are the most important thing.
Yeah.
And once you get a handle on that, I think the rest of it, hopefully, I say, should follow.
Yeah.
But again, not a finance guy here. Just
this is life. This is we talking about life, right?
Things that I've learned.
Yeah. So we've spent quite some time. I appreciate your time. You spending this time with me. To round this up, quick question for you. Let's say you're speaking to some other guy out there, right? Who right now is feeling stuck, barely keeping it together. We understand the climate we live in. Imagine somebody who's just coming into Canada from a different world, a different country. You've uprooted your life from where you are. You've moved in here. You have your family with you, presumably, or maybe you came in alone. You're trying to survive this new landscape, financial landscape, economic landscape, psychological landscape, right? Because we have the culture shock that comes with that.
Yeah.
You're trying to navigate all of this, but you're stuck and you really don't know what to do or how to keep it together. You're struggling to keep it together, right? What would you say to a fellow man who's in this state right now, who's trying to keep it all together while just being the man?
Well, I first start with the gloomy.
With what?
I first start with the dark and gloomy.
Yes.
Now, I have this conversation often. And one of the first things I say is, hey, congratulations, welcome. Like, this it's great. There's a land of opportunities. There's a lot of opportunities around, and hopefully you can get some of them. It's gonna get tough before it gets better, and that reality,
absolutely,
a lot of people, shocks them actually. Like I met a family last week where I said, hey, they've only been here about 3 months, and I said, oh, just so you know, it's gonna get tough. Typically the first 2 years are usually, tougher, or should be hopefully the toughest, and then once you come after that, it should be, a little bit easier as time goes on. But I also remind them to take a lot of pictures. And for that, I'm one of those guys that I practice gratitude, like ceaselessly.
Yeah.
And so I say, take lots of pictures. It will remind you what you look like today, what you're struggling with today, so that in 2 years, when things start to get a little bit better, you don't lose sight of where you started from. So that reminds you that, hey, those troubles of today, you used to pray for them. Yes. You used to wish you had those problems. You used to wish you had car problems because you didn't have a car. You used to wish you had, house problems because you didn't have a home. So yeah, those are the things that I say, and I tell them, I remind them that, if you work hard, you persist, you stay with your problems a little bit. Hopefully, for the most part, it works out. And for anyone that's still struggling out there, it really does get easier. It's it looks like it's insurmountable now, but it gets better.
Yeah. I think that's amazing. That's a very good way to put that. I think if I dare add anything to that, it is tough moving into a new country. It is tough uprooting your family and the life you know and getting into a new place and trying to build a life there.
Yeah.
If you have kids, man, I salute you.
It takes a lot of guts.
It takes a lot of guts.
We don't talk about it enough.
No, it takes a lot for you to say, you know what, this is my life, I have this. Because number one, for you to move your family, you must be doing okay wherever you are. Right?
Yes.
Relatively, right?
Yeah.
You have this life, you have seemingly comfortable life. Maybe for some other reasons you're choosing to move, right? You're looking for that American dream or Canadian dream, as they will say. You're looking for something better for your family and you've moved down here. Man, big ups to you, according to my Jamaican friends. Big ups to you, man. That's bold. It's going to get really tough. Sometimes you're going to regret the move, for sure.
Oh yeah, I mean, there'll be
tough.
several days where there'll be several moments where you'd say, "Why did I do this?"
Yes.
What was wrong with me?
And if you're married, it's going to challenge your marriage.
Yes, 100%.
It's going to challenge your marriage.
I mean, it challenges you by yourself.
Yes.
To the point where you start to question your own sanity.
Everything.
Yeah.
So, but I think if you're able to hold on, be patient with yourself, be patient with your partner, be patient with your kids, most importantly, be patient with yourself.
Yes, it's a process. It really is, and I would challenge you to even forget everything you know.
Yes.
Or
assume
the
how do I say it? Assume you know nothing.
Yes, it's a better place to start. I say, like, be open-minded, as much as you can, because there's a lot that you think you know but you don't know, or you know but you don't understand.
Yeah.
And maybe just that understanding will give you a little bit more empathy to those situations, and perhaps more understanding, and maybe a little bit more knowledge, and hopefully it all works out to be to your positive.
Thank you so much, Peter. This has been an amazing conversation.
It's a pleasure.
For everybody who's listening to this, who's watching this, you excuse us for any of the shabbiness you might notice. This is our very first episode.
Of course.
I'm very grateful. I'm very thankful that we've gotten to this point. We're able to do this, to have this conversation. If this hit home for you, my friend, please make sure to follow my page. Share this video with somebody who needs to see it. Leave your reviews in the comment section. Share it with any other dad that you know around you that needs to hear this. Peter, it has been amazing. I can't thank you enough for doing this with me. I hope that we are able to, in the course of our conversation, set something that would be able to help somebody else.
I hope so.
In any little way we are able to help you, please drop that in the comment sections, my friends. And there's going to be more episodes. I have a few of my friends who have lined up to join me on these conversations, and hopefully we're able to give you value and help you navigate this life that we live in, and help us build a better life for ourselves, for our families, and one we'll be proud of in the future. And I'll get to see you later, my friends.
See ya.
Ciao.